There are so many apps to learn a language. How are you supposed to know which one you should be choosing? Don't worry about what the reviews say. Don't worry about what your best friend says. In this video, I'm going to share with you 9 questions that you need to answer before you pick an app to learn a new language, so that you don't waste your time on a language app that isn't going to work for you. So the first question that I need you to get really clear on is, what is my goal? And you need this to be specific, because the problem is that a lot of language learners think that they've answered this question, but they really haven't. So if you say, I want to be fluent, cool, great, that's exciting. What does that mean? That means honestly absolutely nothing unless you have it specifically defined as to what that means for you. Do you want to have conversations with your friends? Do you want to be able to understand movies? Do you want to be able to read books? These are all different ways to use a language that a lot of people define as fluency, but they're completely different. You go into a new language learning app for the purpose of getting fluent, of course you're going to end up hitting a wall because that doesn't mean anything. Any goal that you have for your language learning is going to mean developing different skills, which means practicing different things. The next question to ask yourself is whether or not what you're practicing is relating to that goal. And again, I'm really going really hard on this because I see so many language learners missing this. If you want to speak in the language, are you practicing speaking the language? It really is that simple. If you want to be able to listen to music, are you practicing your listening skills? Are you actually practicing the skills that logically will get you closer to your eventual goal? Or are the things that you're doing giving you a sense of accomplishment that isn't actually really real? Because if you want to read books in German, but you're spending all your time watching YouTube videos about learning German in your sleep, do you see how those two don't connect? It might feel like you're making progress and you're accomplishing something, like the more hours you spend listening to German in your sleep, but in reality, you're not going to achieve the goals that you're setting out to achieve because you're not actually building those skills. There's a difference between the idea of accomplishing something and actually accomplishing something. The next question to ask yourself is, if you are choosing a new language app or you're already using a language app, what is the responsibility or the purpose or the role of this app in your strategy? This is really important because what so many language learners get wrong is they look to one app. They look to Duolingo, they look to Rosetta Stone to set an entire language learning plan for them. But that's not what these resources are for. That's not what these tools are for. It's not the entire toolbox. Rosetta Stone is the hammer. Duolingo is the level. Some projects you need both, some projects you need neither. So what you need to do when choosing a new language app is to get clear on what that role is actually going to be. If you are a total beginner in French, the first tool you might look for is learning how to introduce yourself, learning how to have basic greetings, how to say dog, cat, all that kind of stuff. You'll spend your time learning new material and you'll need a resource that functions for giving you that vocabulary, teaching it to you in a way that makes sense for your goals. And then after a while, you don't necessarily need to be learning new material, you need to be using that material. And that requires a different tool. That requires a different resource. So instead of spending all of your time learning basic vocabulary, you might be in a position where you need to switch your strategy and focus more on using the vocabulary that you already have in your brain. On the other hand, if you're just starting out with French and the first thing you do is you try and throw yourself into a French conversation, obviously you're going to be completely lost. Nothing's going to work because you don't know any basic vocabulary, you don't know the sounds, you don't know the grammar, you don't know anything. Your needs for your language learning are going to change with your skill in the language and with your lifestyle. So when you can specify what exactly you need in your language learning at any given time, that'll make it much easier for you to choose the language app that'll work best for you. The next thing to ask yourself is, what do you actually enjoy doing long term? Do I actually enjoy doing this? And part of your job as a language learner is to find the kinds of resources that match up with your needs, making sure that you actually enjoy using that resource. And I'm not talking about just the initial excitement, the initial wave of emotion and excitement that you're gonna learn a language this time, you're gonna learn a language in 3 months, etc. What I'm talking about is when that novelty, when that dopamine wears off and it's in the long-term stages of learning a language. Is this something that you actually like to do, or were you just really overexcited about it? Do you need structure, or do you need more freedom? Do you need somebody to tell you what to study and when to study it, or do you just want to be able to just pick up tools and books and songs and whatever, whenever you have the time? Do you need to see a very specific laid out track for how many words you're learning, how well you know them, or does all that information, all that data really stress you out? Or are you somewhere in the middle? And these are things that are going to change over time, both with how your language learning goes, how your skills build, and how your life changes over time. Sometimes you're going to have more time and energy to dedicate to your language learning, and sometimes you just don't have the time. There are different resources and different approaches to learning languages that can satisfy any of these needs. That's a good segue to my next question that you need to ask yourself, and that is how much time you really have. And this shouldn't come from a place of judgment or criticism. The purpose of this is to ground your thoughts in reality and not fantasy, and not just like, get fluent in 3 months YouTube videos. This is to get realistic about your lifestyle and your needs. For example, you are having a crazed season in your life, and you have maybe 10 minutes while you're sitting down and eating a meal, and you want to fit your language learning into that. A full conversation twice a week is probably not gonna be realistic for you, and that's okay. In those cases, if you want to have conversations, for example, it's easy enough to just respond to a chatbot or record yourself talking. Or if you have a lot more time and all you have is a flashcard app, that's gonna get really boring. You're gonna get through your flashcards in 3 minutes, and then you're gonna be like, well, what else am I gonna do? I guess I'll review them again and again and again and again, and that's not actually building any skills because you have so much more time than that resource is designed for. Because remember, the point of setting a schedule for yourself, setting an expectation for yourself in any way, is not to try and push yourself harder than is actually realistic. If you're setting the expectation of spending an hour every single day learning a language and then you can't meet that hour, that doesn't mean that you need to try harder. It means you have different needs than you're expecting of yourself. When this happens, you don't push yourself until you can't push yourself anymore. You listen to your needs and you accommodate them. You take the data and you learn from it. And this is how you stay consistent in language learning long term. So the next question for you to answer is, what hasn't worked for you and why? And again, this is not coming from a place of judgment or criticism. This is coming from a place of curiosity and gathering information. Because the more information that we have about our language learning, the more accurately we can pin down our language learning journey into something that's actually accurate. But if you started Duolingo over and over again, but then you always quit after 2 weeks, why are you quitting? Is it because it's boring? Is it because you forget about it? Is it because you're learning the same things over and over again? Is it because you want to learn other things? Is it because you want to learn things differently? All this information can really help you to make a better decision for your language learning and not just an impulsive one. Or if you've tried listening exercises in the past and you really want to build up your listening comprehension, but you hated those listening exercises. Why? Why did you hate them so much? What about it was so boring or overwhelming or whatever feeling you had? Is it because you were doing listening exercises about global politics and you don't care about politics and so you just kind of checked out? Is it because the exercises you were using were too beginner, too advanced, not at your level? Or are you also more of a visual learner, so you should probably be using more videos than just pure audio to build your comprehension because you need something to look at to keep you interested? All of these reasons are perfectly rational data that you can use to improve your language learning strategy instead of just trying and failing every single time. We need to get you out of the cycle of starting a new language app just to hit a wall and fail. Because remember, if you have tried to learn a language in the past and it hasn't worked before, it wasn't a personal failing. You're not too dumb or lazy. Maybe you need a different sense of progress. Maybe you need a different kind of app. Shifting your mindset from, I tried to learn a language again and failed again, what's wrong with me? To, I didn't like this, what didn't I like about it? And can I find something else similar to this, but that doesn't have this thing that I don't like? That is gonna make or break your language learning. Because if you're watching this video, I can tell you that something in your language learning needs to change, and it's not you. So the next question that I want you to answer is something that will really drive this home. What makes you feel like you're progressing, and what's actual progress? All of the apps out there, they are built to keep you coming back to the language app to keep learning the language. One of the ways that they do this is they make you feel like you're making progress, even if you're just hitting the same buttons over and over again. So if you love using Duolingo because you love to keep the streak up and get all that XP and it makes you feel really great, and then as soon as you try and have a conversation, nothing comes out, because Duolingo makes you feel productive, but it doesn't actually give you results. Now at this point, we're going to circle back to to points 1 and 2 about goals and what you need to fulfill those goals, because this question about progress is going to directly relate to those first 2 questions. Whether or not you're making progress is basically, are you closer to that goal? Are you building those skills? Because any other information outside of that is not useful at all. For modern day language learning, it's so important to be able to differentiate between real results and superficial feel-good metrics that are just designed to keep you addicted to the app, so the app makes a lot of money. The final question that you need to be asking yourself is, what is your plan when the novelty wears off? That's really important that we differentiate between the initial excitement and motivation and dopamine and actual real language learning that feels good and is motivating and exciting for you intrinsically. So going into language learning with the expectation that that initial dopamine is going to wear away is how you stay consistent long term. Remember, we need to separate impulse and commitment, because with impulse, as soon as that dopamine goes away, so is your language learning. We want our language learning to stick around. And you can do that by planning ahead right now. Let me document where my skills are so that when my motivation goes away, I can see how my skills are getting a little bit better. Or maybe if the app is more intensive, if you run out of steam, make sure you have something that's a little less intense and requires less time and energy, but still gets you closer to your goals. Instead of having that full-blown hour-long conversation, just record yourself talking about your day or talking about your thoughts. Because long-term language learning is not about depending on that motivation to keep you going forever. It's about preparing for that motivation to go away, as it always will. And that is perfectly normal. Now, I just gave you a lot of really complex questions to ask, to be honest. And that's not to overwhelm you, it's to show you what it really takes to find success in your language learning. So if that all sounded really good and it makes sense, but you have no idea where to start, there's a link down below in the description to book a free call with me. And in this call, we'll talk about what you're struggling with in your language learning and how I can help you. And if you enjoyed this video and these questions are making sense to you, then I can probably help you find the language learning strategy that will help you stay consistent long term. So click the link below to schedule a free call so we can talk about it. Other than that, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video all about language learning. Bye.